Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for rejoining us, and let me add my thanks to those of Matthew Crabb, to Anne Nadine for that fascinating first session. I'm Justin Trenner. I am one of the directors of QA Financial, and I'm delighted to be with you today. We, in our second session, are very excited to be joined by Yoann Lechevallier, who is Senior Solution Engineer from Source Labs. Yoann Lechevallier will be talking about speeding up your digital transformation with AI-enabled test authoring. So without any further ado, let me pass the baton to Yoann. Yoann.
Thank you very much, Justin, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yoann Lechevallier, Senior Solution Engineer working for Source Labs, and really excited and glad to be here this afternoon to present to you how we can use AI to speed up digital transformation and using AI for test authoring. So I am going to share my screen and to present to you today Autonomic, which is an AI solution for testing SaaS applications. So before presenting Autonomic, for those who may not know Source Labs, we have been created 12 years ago with the aim to provide a cloud testing solution. And today we have more than 550 customers across the world. We run more than 3 billion tests so far. And our portfolio of solution is really across different things, such as providing a scalable environment for headless browser testing, desktop browser across different browsers, different operating systems, mobile emulator and simulators, and real devices, mobile real devices, private or public. On top of those, we provide analytics capabilities, video recording and screenshots, debugging capabilities, and live testing capabilities. And all of those are available for functional testing, UI performance testing, and visual regression testing. We recently have acquired API Fortress for API testing as well. And also recently we have acquired Autonomic, which is an AI test authoring solution, which I am going to present to you today. So before going any further and speaking of Autonomic, let's step back and contemplate what is in the landscape in terms of the SaaS adoption. We understand that SaaS is not emerging anymore, but it's massively adopted across markets and industries. But still, there are a lot of challenges regarding the SaaS testing and QA. So in the financial sector, in 2019, McKinsey were reporting that 25% of the largest banks were already using public cloud, and it was expecting to increase in the next decade up to 40 to 90%. And it was before the pandemic. But as the pandemic arrived, a lot of companies, they had to think differently, to work remotely, to relocate, to transform home into office, and provide still access to their service for their users or their customers. So it's not a surprise that in 2020, Bank of England has, from a survey conducted, they mentioned that more than 1,500 already 1,500 applications in the SaaS were already used by major banks and insurers, and it was at the very beginning of the pandemic. So the pandemic has accelerated this momentum, if you want, and it's not a surprise that today, as per the Gartner report for the finance and the future of finance in 2021, that we understand it's part of the top 10 priorities for all the CFOs to accelerate the cloud adoption. So SaaS applications in the financial sector is not if, but it's going to happen definitively. That's going to increase and to speed up. However, at the same time, in the financial sector, Capgemini has has made a study published for 21 in their World Quality Report, and 79% of the attendees were mentioning that unfortunately they are lacking in terms of test automation and relying too much on manual testing. So there is a potential risk here where adopting SaaS application is not going to be as successful as expected if we carry on making manual testing for those. And why I'm saying that is really because if we consider the SaaS application from a business process standpoint, which can be very critical for your business, such as a quote to cash, for example, and not here to define what a quote to cash business process is, but just to underline the fact that it may already be using different SaaS applications. Some of our customers at Autonomic, they are using Salesforce, Zuora, Oracle Cloud, and SAP in their quote-to-cash business process, as an example. Other business process that can be critical, the procure-to-pay process, as an example, using SAP Ariba, Coupa, Oracle Cloud, or even the hire-to-retire business process with Oracle Human Capital Management, Workday, and SAP SuccessFactors. So all of that, just a few examples of business processes, but still underlying the fact that they may be already relying on SaaS solutions. And because of that, you may want to consider the schedule for 2021 in terms of updates and release for those SaaS applications. So here, this slide is really representing the agenda, if you want, of the next updates and upgrades for Oracle, SAP, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Workday. And it's really illustrating the fact that the cadence, the pace of updates, upgrades is going to be really, really sustained. And the testing and QA teams, they really will have a lot of work to keep with that rhythm. For the SaaS provider, it really doesn't matter if you update or not, because they are not going to keep outdated versions of their product available. They are going to move no matter what. So it's really different from the days where we were running Oracle on our own data centers, keeping our own version and being behind, if you want, and sometimes just N-2 version of the up-to-date ones. Here, with a SaaS model, no matter what, you will have to update, you will have to upgrade with your provider. And if you are not ready, there may be some impacts on your business processes. There may be problems of payment for your employees, problem of payment for your suppliers, that could transform into serious legal problems. So it's too risky for not being considered, and testing business processes is not something new. It's mainly done so far manually. And this cadence of updates from the SaaS providers put a lot of pressure on the Q&A and test teams to be ready for those updates. So that's a real problem. So having a look, and I'm pretty sure that it's nothing new for anyone here on the typical test lifecycle. Everything starts by defining what the test is, what you aim to test, and which success criteria you are expecting, and which sort of data you are going to use. Once it's done, and most of the time it's done by the teams who have the expertise in terms of business flow, workflow, the subject matters, such as the Salesforce expert, the ServiceNow expert, or your SaaS experts from a functional level point of view. Once the test cases are written and defined, it is passed over to a team of experts, of developers, to create the test scripts in Java, Python, Node.js, Ruby, or whatever language is required. And then after quite a substantial amount of work, some test data also are going to be generated. They can be, unfortunately, they cannot be taken away from production. So you may have to generate them, to synthesize, to anonymize. So it may represent a huge amount of work. Once all of that is done, your tests and your data are ready, they can be executed. You may execute them manually or automatically, and hopefully in parallel on Sauce Labs. And based on the execution result, you have reports where you can understand the evolution of the test, if it's a failure or success, understand with Sauce Lab, for example, the root cause of the issues, detect regressions, and so on and so on. And as the SaaS application will change, evolve, your tests are going to break. So you may have to manage and change and fix them. So in a very, very high level overview of what a typical test lifecycle could be when you have SaaS solutions. So now if we consider the amount of time spent, there is a huge amount of effort and time spent on test creation, where the test is written and defined, then translated into code. And it really requires a large amount of time for specialists to do that. And usually we say it's more or less 5 to 8 hours per script. So it's quite a slow process. The test data also has to be created, and the effort on that aspect is also really high, and the tests then need to be executed. And once it's done, you have to consider the change maintenance on the tests. The objects may change, visible or invisible. That could break the test. Your XPath, for example, or the reference IDs that are not visible on the user interface may change from version to version of your SaaS product. So you have to find out which tests are breaking, to find the changes and the references that you need to change in your test, update your code, and that itself requires some substantial effort. We estimate it takes between 30 to 40% of the original effort to maintain the tests. And sometimes as well, the platform is changing completely. All the business logic has evolved. So you may have to update completely the suite or write new test code. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of efforts, and it involves not only the subject matter experts, but also developer teams. And that can be very, very, very difficult to achieve in a short period of time if we consider the cadence of updates provided by the SaaS providers. So fortunately, Autonomic is here to solve this problem, and we are going to solve this problem by using AI for authoring, for writing your test scripts based on plain English intention description, meaning that your subject matter experts, they can become citizen testers if you want. They just need to define their intention in the test in plain English, and Autonomic, with its AI capabilities, is going to understand that and to translate this intention into code scripts that are executed by the platform against your SaaS solution. So Autonomic basically can ingest test descriptions based on plain English from an Excel spreadsheet or a simple CSV file. The NLP engine is going to understand the intention you have in the test and translate that into Java code. And the NLP engine is going to break down the description of the test into different steps and execute those steps against your SaaS solution, regardless of the type of application, regardless of the evolutions of the application. The platform is smart to detect the changes and as well to generate, maintain, and repair your scripts when there are changes in terms of object, visible or invisible, on the SaaS solution. And the platform, at the same time, has enough capabilities to generate synthetic data at the runtime of your scripts, meaning that you don't need to spend time preparing the data, extracting them from some place, anonymizing them, and transferring them from one department to the other. Here, the data, they can be generated on the fly, synthesized, synthesized, and used for your test on the fly without risking any compliancy problem. And the platform is going to orchestrate the test execution on SOSLab so that you can perform your test across a large number of different capabilities, meaning different browsers, operating system, resolutions. And in this way, test on a very large matrix of compatibility and a very large matrix of different possible cases of usage. So instead of hours in terms of writing, here with Autonomic, you just upload your intention, your test Excel file or CSV, and the AI engine is going to parse the steps of the test and to translate them into machine commands with NLP. And it's going to take a few minutes to do compared to hours and days by humans. And it's going to be executed on parallel on SOSLab. In terms of changes and maintenance, the platform is going to identify the changes and the updates required in the test. The platform is going to search for the page and objects changed, visible or invisible on the SaaS solution, and maintain the asset intelligently, and detect if there are new objects appearing due to some business logic changes, make some recommendations to add new steps, and to propose to the users amendments and modifications that the user can accept or reject, and that will help to enhance the model of machine learning for your environment. So the benefits of using this approach are very large. We can enumerate a few of them in this slide. Firstly, you don't need to write code. You can generate test scripts based on plain English. The NLP engine is going to understand that and write the code for you. So you are going to save a large amount of time, and you can just write code without being a developer. You just need to be a subject matter expert, a functional expert. Secondly, you can generate synthetic data for your tests, so you don't need to worry about anonymizing the data you have. Here, the platform from regular expressions can generate on the fly the data you need for your tests. Thirdly, you can test API and business logic, again, in plain English description. So accessible for all the subject matter experts, your functional experts, your Salesforce admin, and so on. It can be integrated in a CI/CD platform so that you can automatically detect regressions and obviously test your business workflow across different browsers on different operating systems, different screens, resolution, to be sure that every single user using them, those business workflow are going to be successful, or customers are going to be successful. The platform also will detect visible and non-visible changes. So some changes may happen and they are not visible necessarily on the screen, but the platform will detect them. And also you can validate database queries with plain English, creating SQL queries against databases and validating them. So there are a lot of different features associated to that approach and benefits. And I think what is the most relevant part of this talk now is to show you how it works really. So what I'm going to do now, and it's obviously limited in time, but we will certainly welcome you on our booth to have a longer discussion on that. I'm going to demo you how the platform works very briefly. So let's imagine you are working in a company and you have a project. You can create different projects on the platform, and typically a project is maybe a business workflow, or it can be a specific SaaS application. It doesn't really matter. The way it works, you can so create tests, cases, basically either by recording them from a live session on the SaaS application. So for example, here I'm logged on Salesforce. By the plugin of Autonomic, I can record every single actions I am doing on the SaaS application. And once I have finished my workflow, my business workflow, my business process, I record my test into Autonomic, which is going then to parse the different steps, translate them into machine commands. The other way to create tests is to upload a test file, which can be a CSV file or it can be an XLS file, basically, as the file we see here, where you have one column describing the test steps, one column describing the data, and one column describing the results expected. And you just break down one by one every single step you want to do into your business process. So as an example here, I am making a CPQ test, which is on Salesforce, a quote to cash process, basically. So from an opportunity on an account, I create a quote and take some elements. So I create a quote. So I click on one of the accounts. Here, my account is Cleverham Holdings, and I create a new opportunity. So I'm just describing what I'm going to do. So exactly what, as I am doing it on Salesforce, enter the opportunity name and save it. So enter the opportunity name, I give the name with a regular expression here as a pattern to generate a synthetic data. So here it's going to generate 2 digits, 2 integers, but you can create numbers. I enter the close date, I provide a fixed date. I select the stage, I select the type, the lead source, and so on, so on. I select as well, for example, the start date, where I give the date of today, and I select the end date, I give the date of today, but in 1 year. So here, it's not a fixed value, it's a field that is automatically executed at the runtime. And step by step, I define my opportunity. Then I create my quote and I add my products exactly if I were on the platform and doing the things step by step. So the process is very simple. It's plain English. I am describing without knowing what's happening behind in terms of coding, and I just tell to the platform, click here, do this, enter that, and it's my business workflow. Once it's done, I integrate it into the platform. So I upload my XLS file, and the system is going to parse it and to create a case. And once it's created, the case is going to be executed. So the execution of the case is going to be done step by step, and you will be able to see the screenshot of the different steps. So here I log onto my Salesforce, I enter my username, my password, and then I connect onto Salesforce. I can introduce some logics and make my case more sophisticated. So I can have some testings, I can make some loops, I can use variables that I can define, so to not only to stick to the spreadsheet, so I can expand the complexity of my test. And then step by step, my test is going to run, and I will see the screenshot for every single steps. And I will have some elements such as the warning here, telling me that there were different options and opportunities. For example, to click on all accounts, there were different possibilities on the page. So the AI has selected the highest score to perform the action, so that it is sure we are doing it on the visible object, the active object in the context of this operation. And this way, step by step, I am doing my quote and I am validating my quote and activating my quote for this business workflow. And once it is done, this test is then available to be integrated in a suite where basically I am going to be able to schedule an execution of the test. I can do that every month, every day, every hours in my CI/CD pipeline, and I can define on which capabilities, Linux, Chrome, Firefox, and so on SOS Lab, I want to execute this test. And based on that, I can have a lot of different cases in my suite, organized, arranged in terms of a level of priority, first, second, last. And once it's done, without having to have written any single line of code, I will be able to test my SaaS application. And the test itself, without me, any intervention is going to create a script, and the script is a JavaScript. And here, for example, for this quote to order test on Salesforce, it is almost 1,700 lines of code. It has taken me a few minutes to define my spreadsheet, and the platform automatically generate for me this code without me touching any single Java line. So that's really powerful, and that's the benefit of autonomic. Obviously, there are a lot of different other use cases. We would be very happy to show them on the booth. So feel free to come and say hello and speak with us. We will be happy to engage. So now I think it's time for me to give you back a few minutes if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Yoann. Thank you. I think if you could stop sharing your screen, that would be ideal in terms of the view.
That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was a very interesting presentation. I wanted to pick up on one particular point that you made, which was the increasing dependency of organizations on SaaS solutions. And you see that particularly, I think the pace of that's increased in the last 12 months, where I've certainly seen financial institutions who've wanted to offer new capabilities that have been developed by firms like EasyBob, so they can offer SME lending that's AI enabled by injecting a platform, an external platform, and just connecting some of their systems to that external platform. So I think it's a very good example of a SaaS-based solution where what they fundamentally need to test is the APIs that connect them to their new capability, and also what the user experience is going to be on all the different Chrome mobile platforms, Safari, etc., etc. Do you see that pace increasing? Do you have a sense of what proportion of banking solutions are now being provided in that way, and how that's evolving in the market?
There are no doubts that the amount of adoption is going to increase, and every CEO, because of the pandemic, has learned that they can work remotely. So it's not only the retailers; it's affecting every verticals basically. So we see a lot of customers, and in the US, firstly, obviously in the financial sector, struggling, coping with the innovation made by the SaaS providers, and their team are not big enough to be able to carry on manually testing the workflow. So that's going to increase, and the rhythm of innovation is not going to decrease neither, because everybody now is used to consume from anywhere, to access their customers from anywhere, and the customers to accessing us from anywhere. Personally, I use most of the time my bank mobile application. I don't go in the bank office anymore, and it's for me way more reliable, fast, and it works really exactly as it's supposed to be. So I'm really convinced that's something that's going to be only increasing and not changing. So there is a big need and a gap to fill, and that's where AI is going to help to fill this gap and to provide more time for the developers to test, the testers to achieve their tests, basically.
I think just one last question. You provide a mechanism for me to run tests continuously. Okay, but for those tests to run continuously, I have to have continuously available on demand test data provisioned. Do you find that you work in partnerships with test data specialists, or how do you address that challenge?
I was on mute, sorry. we basically provide the execution environment for you, so you don't need to worry about provisioning that. So it's going to be always there for you, available, and it's a headache and a burden removed from you to address. So it means basically you just need to connect your test cases to our platform for them to be executed in a highly secure environment, again, because security is paramount at Sauce Labs. And it means that it's going to help you to reduce your time to market. You would be able to test across a large number of different capabilities that you may not have internally, and potentially identify problems that may happen to your customers or your employees when working from home or connecting to your product from anywhere.
Yoann, thank you ever so much